Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ango show. And oh my god, I didn't even crop my green screen. I am such a bad person, Billy.
Oh no.
Oh no. It's not a real studio, guys.
No.
It's not a real studio. Surprise, you caught me.
He said it's not a real studio.
I don't know, maybe people thought it was. I'm just saying it's not. But did I fix it?
Mine's real.
Yeah, yours is real. We could see the bedroom.
Yeah. Just thought I'd show off a little bit.
Do you clean the sheets?
Yeah, do I clean the sheets?
Yeah, like you actually like change your sheets pretty often or no?
Bro, I clean them, I want to say like every 2 or 3 days.
You're a good guy, Billy.
Yeah, dude, I take care of what's back here, brother. This is important to me.
I love that for you.
I've been working hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
It's a lifestyle.
This might be the greatest intro we've ever had to a live stream.
Bro, God.
What up, gang? Welcome to the Ango Show live. It's April 9th, 2025. I think everything is fixed now. Everything's looking good, hopefully. Hopefully. Very, very hectic day, I'm not going to lie. And I just wanted to preface that because today we are talking about NXT and really just kind of shooting the shit. I wanted to sit back, relax, and shoot the shit. And I don't know. I'm really excited. I'm very happy that Billy is here. Me and Billy, we're just kind of doing this every day, talking about wrestling.
Brother, we haven't even told the people we're TikTok stars.
We are TikTok stars. We had a clip from yesterday's show go viral. Pretty cool.
TikTok stars, people.
Yeah. We are pushing TikTok now.
We are, and we're pushing it pretty heavy.
So, Billy's on TikTok at BillyTKO. I am on TikTok at AngoPW.
Mm-hmm.
And that's becoming really fun. So, yeah, there is a chance that your guys' questions or super chats might even get clipped and be part of these TikToks and clips and stuff because we have been driving the conversation. Honestly, it's been really fantastic just watching the Ango show, and a lot of things that we do talk about are being clipped and being watched and stuff. And we want to continue growing the show. And
sure.
Of course, with growing the show, that means building on multiple platforms. So, yeah, follow us on TikTok if you're not there. That was relatively nice, going to bed and waking up, and oh my God, it's 300 and something thousand views. And we've had big TikToks before, but now that like we're clipping the Ango show and like doing our thing, it's kind of cool to see our takes.
So we're hoping that all the people that are here, you guys are going to start seeing more people. You know, that's the plan. We're trying to convert people over to the Ango show to actually watch us live.
And that is the goal. Billy.
Yes, sir.
Did you watch NXT last night? Of course you did. Why? Because Billy does watch-alongs on his channel every Monday, Tuesday, sometimes Wednesdays too. But he does WWE and AEW watch-alongs. And if you guys aren't watching them, you guys should check it out. Just wanted to get your reaction to NXT last night, and obviously we'll talk about a lot of stuff in wrestling today. But overall, what was your feelings on that?
So a lot of people in my chat that were hanging out seemed very, very highly about NXT. So I'm going to kind of follow back off what they said. I'm going to kind of sing the same praise. NXT was a really good show last night. I thought with what they did with Giulia coming back, and then the Dark State stuff, and then the qualifier matches, everything like that. It seemed like they just flowed the way that they were supposed to. Looks like they're pushing things forward for Stand and Deliver. So overall, dude, solid.
Yeah. I think my main takeaway watching NXT every week is just the level of consistency they have. And, you know, I hate to make this about like, NXT versus AEW, but we can sit here and talk about like NXT has this and this and AEW has this and this. But really what it comes down to is if you're looking at a program that kind of gives you a little bit of everything, NXT has done that literally since the day of NXT 2.0. And
this is true.
And I think that's, I hate to say it, but that's like one of the things I just wish AEW would be better with is consistency. And even, you know, if I could be honest, like I think NXT might be the most consistent weekly wrestling television show.
Yeah, we've talked about it numerous times. It is hands down the most consistent show that is on TV right now. It's just not everybody watches it, so not everybody is aware that it's the most consistent TV show.
Yeah. I think the only comparison where NXT and AEW are just kind of lackluster is their main event scene for the men. Otherwise, I think NXT smokes AEW with the women's division. The mid card is very sound. And when I talk about consistency, I'm talking about consistently telling stories and moving the needle. And what they're doing with that women's division should be the model for Raw, SmackDown, AEW, and pretty much any wrestling company. Because NXT went from having one of the worst women's divisions ever to being very, very, very significantly better than everybody else.
And you know what's really crazy is the women's division in NXT is like the one thing that I look most forward to.
Yeah.
Like, it's my favorite part about the show. Just being able to sit down, you see like Giulia, Jada Parker, Stephanie Vakir, goodness gracious, I'm having a Jordan Grace.
Yep.
You see all four of those women and you see the story that they're telling there. Like, last week, for instance, I'll talk about last week. I was actually a person who was kind of upset with the way that Stephanie Vakir, she actually she relinquished the NXT North American Championship. My thing about it is this week NXT chose to give me a storyline that makes sense. They put in the qualifier, and I don't feel so bad about everything that happened with Stephanie Vakir now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I really think the thing with Giulia attacking her was kind of like do we call it a heel turn? Is it a heel turn? I don't know. It's a strange thing, but this is where WWE is very good at, hey, you got to keep watching to find out. And the reality is NXT does this so much better than AEW, where they put these storylines on their shows. And as you mentioned with Stephanie Vakir, like, yeah, it was kind of disappointing she vacated the North American Women's Championship. But then now we get Giulia on NXT, and then, okay, she lays out Stephanie, and she's holding the belt. Yeah, this is kind of cool because now we have a reason to keep watching, to watch the development of the story play out. And what WWE does so well with NXT, better than everybody else, is the utilization of their women, because not only is it their main event scene for their women super stacked, but they are creating stars through their mid-card that will elevate them to that upper echelon. And I think that's one thing that AEW has yet to figure out. This is something that WWE has figured out, and because they've been able to figure it out, it leads to what I call appointment viewing. And when I say appointment viewing, I'm talking every Wednesday. I would watch AEW if they did the same thing as NXT. But for now, NXT has me watching every single week because consistently they're providing me some sort of value. And it just really, it really makes me believe that NXT is better than AEW. And you could even make an argument that NXT is better than some of the other shows that WWE has to a certain extent.
For sure. For sure.
Our good friend Zach Pack coming through with a super chat today. He says $1.99. He says Giulia crashing out like Trick Willie. Yeah, I think really the big thing that a lot of people don't talk about is character development. And, you see it with Hangman Page and AEW, which is fantastic. I wish we would see this across more superstars across these shows between Raw, SmackDown, and stuff. But if you look at Trick Williams and you look at Giulia, there is a character development that's happening. So it's not, hey, just be really loved by the fans, or hey, just have a really good catchphrase, or hey, have a really cool entrance. It's let's develop these characters to something that's a little bit more next level. And Giulia has come in, and her attacking Stephanie Vakir, her crashing out like that, it gets me so much more excited for Stand and Deliver. Because now I really don't know. Do they have Giulia win the belt again? Do they have Giulia just lose at Stand and Deliver and get called up to the main roster? I don't know. But WWE doing this character development tells me, hey, keep watching to find out. And it's keep watching to find out because it's good, not because it's bad.
So I just want to sit up and say, I don't think that you have to have Giulia win the title back at Stand and Deliver. I don't think that is like the thing that you need to focus on here. And in fact, I actually think that the main focus should be her character development. If you are going to go the route of turning her heel, you almost do something along the lines of the crash out, right? Kind of like Trick Williams. You kind of do that same thing and you resemble that. I don't think you have to have her win the championship. You can maybe let her spend a little bit more time inside of NXT, but I do think eventually the goal is to have Giulia head back up to the main roster, or head up to the main roster, excuse me, just simply based off the fact of you know that she's won the championship, she can hold it down, that her character development is there and it's important. So it's just all going to depend on timing. And I just genuinely don't think that right now you need to have her win that championship. In fact, I think you can go as far as giving the belt to Jordan Grace if you wanted to.
So, yeah, let me ask you. This is a tough conversation to have, honestly.
Yeah.
So just kind of bear with me. But when you look at NXT today, and you mentioned Jordan Grace, you mentioned Giulia and Stephanie Vakir, like, all three of those women are ready for the main roster. So if you're the WWE, if you're Shawn Michaels, if you're Triple H, do you call them up right away? Because the thing with NXT is they already have so many more women who are qualified to be at the top of the card. Do you really waste title reigns on Jordan and Stephanie and Giulia, or do you just call them up to the main roster where Raw and SmackDown could benefit from these three powerhouses who are inevitably going to be big stars?
Well, I think there's a level of all three of these women, right? So all three of these women are so important to what NXT is doing. And, I think at the end of the day, say for instance, we had somebody like Jada Parker actually win that championship, that would be really, really huge. But at the end of the day, I don't know, because maybe somebody like Jordan Grace is maybe utilizing NXT as a way to understand the quote unquote WWE right? Because that's what people love to say. So, again, I don't think it's something that you necessarily have to rush into, because I think as fans, we love to say like, oh yeah, no, this person, they belong on the main roster. They belong on the main roster. They belong on the main roster. It's kind of the same story with like Ricky Saints, for instance. I don't think that you necessarily have to push it right away. And I think WWE is doing such a better job now at utilizing exactly when these quote unquote call ups will happen. They let a story bleed in to the main roster. It's kind of what we just witnessed with Roxanne Perez, right?
Yeah.
They let it bleed in to the actual story that's happening on the main roster. So instead of somebody just going up and just popping up there where, maybe they don't have something necessarily right for them, they let a story bleed into it. So I think once we get to those stories, that's when we'll start to see these women go up to the main roster and do what they do.
It's an interesting take that you have, because I partially agree with you and then I partially disagree. And
okay.
Why I say that is because I do love the stories that bleed into the main roster. However, there are a lot of great NXT talent, and I don't think you can do that for absolutely everyone. So I do want to see them be a little bit more balanced in the sense of like, hey, some people are called up by draft. Some people are called up by bleeding into the main roster stories, right? From NXT to the main roster. And then I do think a good old-fashioned surprise debut to end Monday Night Raw or SmackDown could be a big splash. So, like, and this is a hypothetical situation. This is by no means something realistic or something. Maybe it could be, but like John Cena randomly attacking Cody Rhodes to end the go-home show, and he does it with the help of Ethan Page, NXT star. Like, that would be a massive debut surprise for Ethan Page. I'm just using that as an example, but that's like the categories I have: surprise debut, bleeding storylines, and then, or intertwined storylines, I should say, that bleed into the main roster, and then of course the draft. Because they just do have so many people to call up at this point. You don't want it to be too similar every time. But that's kind of why I disagree with you. But I do agree that I love the way it like Roxanne and Bayley. But even that too, right now, it's kind of a weird situation with Roxanne.
It is
very odd, to be honest. But
very odd. But I she'll find her way. She'll find her footing.
Yeah. Shout out to Zach Pack for the super chat. Tolino Channel says he dropped 40 rupees, and he says family versus Dark State at the parking lot. Billy, let me just ask you, we saw the debut of Dark State, and I have a very hot take on this, and it sucks that I have this hot take because I don't think it's going to be a popular one, and I would like to be wrong. But
okay.
Just
now
let me know.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, let me know what you think of Dark State right now, like the like the group.
So the group as a whole, what I witnessed last night, it wasn't like the worst thing I ever seen. You know what I mean? It's your normal faction, right? Oh. So I enjoyed it for that, and I enjoyed it for what they were doing. But overall, I won't give such like a long answer because I don't necessarily have like the biggest hot take. I will say though, I'm not sure how I felt about the match that they had. It was the post match that I was a fan of. and I know we have a super chat down there talking about it. So I'll wait till then to give my thoughts. So I'll let you go.
I love Dark State as a group.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely speaking, I like these guys all being paired together. I think Cutler James is very surprising to me. Dion Lennox, very surprising to me. Saquon Sugars, I'm very aware of because of his work in Deadlock Pro Wrestling, but those two guys really are very unique, and I think Osiris Griffin or whatever, I think he's very unique as well. I think it's an interesting gel of a team, like the way they're all gelled together. But my hot take is that I don't think this will ever be a main roster act.
Really?
I don't believe so. I think WWE, and I would love to be wrong. With the Shield, for example, we didn't see the Shield in NXT. We saw 3 guys from NXT debut as part of the Shield. And I don't know how WWE, and there's a reason for this, by the way, but I don't really recall a time in WWE where a successful faction that worked in NXT came to the main roster and was successful other than the Wyatt family. I can't think of another faction. And there was a faction that I loved so much during NXT 2.0, and I understand that Noam Dar was injured or might even still be injured, but the metaphor would be a perfect group to get called up to the main roster, and we haven't seen that. And so when I look at Dark State, I look at them as they're going to be a fun, awesome act to watch in NXT, and then when it's time to go to the main roster, either somebody, and I don't want to manifest people getting fired, but I just see something where like maybe somebody gets released or maybe the group gets disbanded. Something happens where we don't see this group make it to the main roster as a group.
So can I rebuttal?
Yes.
So my rebuttal to you here is while yes, Dark State, I can understand, why people would think that maybe it necessarily wouldn't work on the main roster. My rebuttal is it's all about utilization, right? So one of our big talking points is that, we've only seen a couple, factions really make it up on the main roster. And I think the thing about it is WWE has to be very strategic on how they bring them to the main roster. And when I say that, I mean, like, let's use, Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, for instance, right? And this is just an example. I'm not actually saying this is something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But say you have them come up there and attack somebody like a Seth Rollins or Cody Rhodes. You have to make this faction seem serious at all times. And it also has to be serious for them, too. They have to know how to cut their promos correctly. They have to know how to really feel the energy inside of the building and stuff like that. Like, those things are so important to what actually takes place. So it's, to me, while, yes, I may agree with you in some state of like, oh yeah, like, WWE they don't have the best track record with that. It's all about utilization. And I do trust Triple H enough that, hey, if Shawn Michaels is feeding him something, he's going to take it and he's going to run with it, hopefully the best way that he possibly can. So that's just my rebuttal.
But let me ask you this, though. And I ask you this because when you look at factions in WWE history, professional wrestling history, as I mentioned earlier, the Wyatt family coming from NXT, Bray Wyatt was the clear leader, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you look at the Bloodline, Roman Reigns was the clear leader. If you look at the Shield, Roman Reigns was the clear leader. There's always a clear leader for these groups. I don't know if Dark State has truly identified who their clear leader is.
Yeah, they have.
Who would you say it is? Saquon?
It's right on the screen.
No, it's not on the screen. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's in the super chat right here.
The super chat right here says Stax running a car onto Tony D'Angelo.
Stax is going to be your leader.
You think Stax is going to be the leader of Dark State?
I 1000% think that Stax.
They have been teasing. They have been teasing a little bit of the shakeup.
Yeah. So I 1000% think that Stax is actually going to be the leader of Dark States. The reason why that is obviously because of everything that's kind of been going on with him and Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to utilize again this group correctly, you have to go in with a clear leader, kind of like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is they haven't identified one. And we kind of seen it yesterday. They seemed a little shaky, not necessarily knowing, they don't have a leader to necessarily lead them and put them in the right direction. So with that being said, I think somebody who can actually push forward this group and actually push them to new heights, and a guy who definitely has clear leadership in him, right? Being under Tony D'Angelo storyline wise, he's the heir to the throne, if you will. Stacks makes the perfect sense to go turn on the family, and it makes perfect sense for him to actually join Dark State, be the leader of that group. Obviously, them feuding with the family right away, it would be a cool turn. I would enjoy that. So yeah, I actually think that Stacks is going to be the leader of Dark State.
I didn't see it like that before this conversation. I'll be honest, I didn't see it like that. However, I think your take is very, very valid. I think it's a very, very solid take. I think that is actually very realistic after hearing you explain it. That would be I don't think Stacks would be... He hasn't done anything to really stand out being under Tony D'Angelo. So if he is in fact the leader, like you're saying, I'm not opposed to it. But going back to the argument about the main roster, then Stacks really has to give this group a true identity, and it has to feel like a big deal, because if he goes and runs this group and gets to the main roster, then maybe it could be successful. But as it stands, I just think this is a great act for NXT, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that too, by the way.
No, but there's not.
But I think that group is missing that true leader that really brings them to the forefront. And maybe that's where I would have loved having Trick Williams being revealed or something, because Trick Williams is he's a really good talent. And I do have some stuff I want to say about Trick in a little bit, but very good take, Billy. I'm not going to disagree or say no. I don't think that's an invalid take at all by any means.
So I know some people would say like, oh, it's probably, lame if Stacks would be the guy, but I think that's the thing. I think that's like the perfect example there of like, you're right. Stacks doesn't have this huge identity, and what better way to create an identity rather than turning on, it makes a lot of sense in my head, because we question if it was Javon, we question if it was Trick, we question all of those things. For it to ultimately be Stacks would just make so much sense, because the feud was never really with all three of those guys. The real feud lies within the family.
Yeah, I dig it. Keith B dropping a $5 super chat. He says, "Do not like Dark State at all. It is a poor ripoff version of the Shield. It has its similarities, but I think every group that takes over will be compared to the Shield and Retribution and Death Riders, and I think that's kind of the way it is. The Dark State faction, to me, I don't hate it at all. I like the group. I like the guys in the group. I just don't know. My hot take was very simple. I just don't think this is a group that makes it out of NXT as a group. I think all these guys will find, honestly, like I will be very shocked if, and I can't believe I'm saying it because I was not a fan of this guy, but Cutler James is somebody who I think, like, knowing WWE, I could see them one day kind of giving him like the Chris Masters, like, gimmick type of thing. And I could see Deion Lennox finding a way to break out as a singles guy. I think a lot of these guys could break out as singles. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I think the group itself, the gimmick and everything, I can understand the comparisons to the Shield. Yeah. But I think everything in wrestling has a comparison to something that's been done before. I don't think there's a lot of originality in general. So it's just how you make it a little bit different and remix it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I can understand why people don't like them, or thinking that, again, it's a poor ripoff. They're always going to be compared. Very simple. Just exactly what Ango said.
Going back to your Stacks being the leader, kind of would be cool. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about this. It just kind of popped in my head. Stacks is in a real-life relationship with Ariana Grace. And she hasn't been given anything serious to do. She's just the comedy character and stuff. And she's really, really good at it, being Santino's real life daughter. But, him dating her, maybe he turns on the family. He brings Ariana Grace in. They try to change up the look a little bit. And then when they go after the family, Ariana Grace could also be the one that wrestles, what's her name? Adriana Rizzo or whatever. So just like a little
Yeah, no.
food for thought.
I definitely think I want to see Stacks get an identity because I know some people aren't like the biggest fans of Stacks. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Stacks. Like he's actually one of the people that I genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I enjoy, the mob ties and stuff like that. Like I don't know. The whole family storyline I've been a fan of.
Yeah.
But it's like Tony's a bully at the end of the day.
The thing is, it's the family has run its course, in my opinion.
It has, and that's the thing. And there needs to be something to spice it up.
And Tony D'Angelo in NXT has also ran its course.
Yes.
He was there with Solo Sikoa and Grayson Waller and Carmelo and Braun, and he's always been great with this gimmick, but it's ran its course on NXT. And I like the family of being I love the idea of the family being a group on the main roster, which is crazy. What really screwed things up, by the way, and I forget his name because he is irrelevant in AEW ROH, but Stack's tag team partner, something Carter. I forgot I don't know what his name in ROH is. Something Carter.
Yeah, I remember.
And it sucks. I should remember him, but you don't because he doesn't get utilized in AEW. But he got fired from WWE. AEW brought him in. We saw very little of him. But Stacks had a tag team partner. They were they could have done stuff in the tag team division, and WWE could have developed both of them. And for Stacks, he's always played second fiddle to Tony, and we don't see Luca Crucifino and Stacks being a tag team,
Nope.
So I like the idea. This would be kind of fun, but I like the idea of Stacks being the leader. I think it would be a test. It would be a challenge. It would be, hey, we're gonna see if you can make this work. You're going to be the leader of your own group, and we're going to see if you can make it work. And if you get it over and you make it work, and we come up with an identity, then maybe there is a crossover possibility to the main roster. Even with that, though, it's a very, very big risk and a very big challenge, but that's kind of how I look at it. Now, with that being said, Luca Crucifino could wrestle, but I love Luca Crucifino's gimmick, and I like even when he was like the lawyer, like before he even joined the family, watching him on Level Up and stuff, I would look at him as the perfect person to kind of be like Jose the assistant for LFI, but for the family on the main roster.
Okay.
I don't know if I would have Stacks leave for Dark State, bro. Keep that group together. Keep them together. I think, genuinely speaking, I feel like it would be so much better for WWE to keep the family together, move them up to the main roster. And
yeah, but again, you kind of said it. The family, in some sense, has ran its course. But
really quick, it's ran its course in NXT. When you look at the main roster, there are so many other different programs you can do with it. And it's another faction for the main roster that could be successful technically.
Here's my thing that may be a hot take to some people. I actually think Tony D can stand out on his own up on the main roster. I genuinely do. I think you could have God, what's her name? I can't even think of her name. Rizzo?
Yeah.
I think you can have her go up with Tony D. And you can let him utilize that character the same way. And again, you do it in more of a heelish, dark way of like, it's almost like Scarface. You ever seen Scarface?
Of course.
It's kind of like that. You let that be the character, and you let him do like vignettes popping up on the screen. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. I don't think that he necessarily needs Stacks to go with him, because then you're just kind of redoing kind of what Gunther and Ludwig did. Ludwig technically is important to Gunther, but he didn't necessarily have to go up with Gunther. He could have stood off on his own if he found, some kind of footing. I think genuinely Stacks, if he joins this group, he will find the footing that he needs to. Again, a person with a lot of character behind him. Now, granted, he does need to change the character up a little bit, especially moving from the family, but I genuinely think he is somebody that is searching for an identity. And the only reason that people call him lackluster is because he's playing second fiddle. So again, once somebody stops playing second fiddle, that is when they become more relevant. And that's when we start to have a conversation of, oh, this guy does make sense on the main roster. Oh, this guy does. It's just because right now he's playing second fiddle to somebody.
And I think at that point you can make the argument, though, because he's playing second fiddle, that's why it's a very, very big risk. Because right now it's a very safe bet by him staying with the family, but it's also a very, very big risk by him leaving.
But again, why do we have to always play it safe? Why can't we take risks?
No, for sure. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to decide: is it worth taking the risk?
And I think it is.
And I would say right now I'm not convinced it is. But
okay,
but the only reason why is because in NXT, sure, yes, in NXT, completely fine, take the risk, no big deal. But I do think there's a lot of success for the family as is if they were on the main roster. And what what really sold me on the family was their feud with Legado del Fantasma and the video packages and the diner, sitting at the dinner and they did all these like mafia style vignettes and shit. So to me, I look at this and I'm like, man, it would be kind of fun to see them bring that to the main roster. So that's why I'm not 100% convinced. But I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right. I'm just saying, me personally, I see both sides of it, and it's a very difficult challenge. But if you are right, for example, and Stax was the leader of Dark State, that's his chance to really break free and show the world what he can do. And I don't know right now if he has showed me, when you watch tag team wrestlers or factions, like, it was very, very clear watching the Shield, all three guys were going to be great. We all knew this, but it was very, very clear that Roman Reigns was the guy.
Absolutely.
I don't get that with this particular group. You know what I mean? I feel like they're all better together. But who knows? I think that's why it's a healthy conversation to have, for sure. But definitely interesting. Tolino Channel, thank you, Keith, for the super chat. Tolino Channel's dropped 100 rupees. He says, I want a Nexus out of Dark State or Roman or Seth hearing Shield music, and now these guys are taking over the Shield. Architect, Lunatic, and Muscle. Yeah. Having inspiration from other groups or other people, it's going to exist. Having your own identity, but having your own identity matters. And what I will say is, as much as I like this group, and I really do like the group, and I like what they've been doing, I think their finisher is badass. But even a power bomb, super power bomb, just like the Shield, it's like, you can't ignore that, right?
No.
Got to have your own identity, and I don't know.
But again, that's like the cool part of NXT is like, this is where they get to develop. You know what I mean? As much as we now have evolved, NXT is still a place while they're getting ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We put a lot of, and I'm not saying we, but I think as fans we put a lot of pressure on these people. At the end of the day, like these stories are going to tell themselves. We're going to let them play out. It's not, they don't have to be perfect or hit it out of the park every time. You know what I mean? I genuinely think that, if we just, like, for me, I know I'm willing to, whether I'm right or wrong about the Stacks things, I'm willing to let this play out and see where it goes. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable letting it play out and see how it goes, because this, I think that Dark State could actually be something on the main roster given we give it time. And that's my own take on it.
Yeah. I hope you're right. I don't see it just yet. Like I said, I see it as an NXT act. But that's okay too. We'll have to wait and see for sure.
For sure.
Excuse me, I had to yawn. Thank you, Tolino Channel, for the super chat. Phil dropping a $4.99. He says, Stacks challenging them to the parking lot. It's a ploy to get the family in a state of uncertainty where he breaks out, turns, and revealed as the leader.
Mm-hmm. That Phil pinpointed that perfectly.
I don't know if I'm that convinced.
I guess we're gonna have to tune in and see.
I'm not that convinced. I swear, honestly, like I have a hard time saying this, but, and I like Stacks. He just hasn't.
Well, again, it goes back to he hasn't done enough.
He hasn't done enough to show me that, like, he's the breakout guy. There's always a breakout guy in groups or tag teams, and he just hasn't shown that.
Well, again, I think it goes back to kind of like, again, utilization. And obviously, here we go. Stax isn't somebody that is ready for the main roster right now, but we make the argument that Tony D is, right?
Yeah.
So having him break away from Stax storyline-wise makes sense. Therefore, allowing him to be the leader of Dark State would put him in a place to where, these conversations that you and I are having about he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything to be the breakout guy. In NXT, you don't necessarily need to be the quote-unquote breakout guy if you're just staying in NXT. So therefore, Stax can be the breakout guy just as the leader of Dark State. He just broke away from the family. So you're getting away from the story of, oh, well, he's playing second fiddle and stuff like that. He becomes the leader. He can do those things. Try to be the leader of Dark State or whatever. Hopefully it works. And then hopefully we start to have a different conversation about Stax, right?
Yeah.
That's the hope here. So that would be why I think Stax could actually play that role as the leader of this group. Because here's the thing. You have to understand, when you're sitting by Tony, who is a leader, you start to build leader tendencies, right?
Yeah.
If I sit in a room full of 6 millionaires, well, I'm destined to be the 7th, right?
Yeah.
As long as I'm taking what they're saying. So therefore, you can kind of have that be the story that they tell. Stax has these utilizations of being a leader, and he doesn't need Tony anymore. And again, they're just doing a really good job at speaking this into existence and letting this happen.
I'm not shitting on you by any means. I think you're making very valid points, especially Tony moves up to the main roster, Stax stays back with Dark State, and then we finally can have those conversations whether or not he breaks out. I don't disagree. I think it's very valid. I just don't see it. And I think partially the reason why my opinion on it is a little bit skewed too is because I do think to a certain extent, Billy, that I love a lot of what Dark State is doing. I like the guys in the group, but I really hate the name of the group. I really don't like the faction name, and sometimes it's like sometimes I hear a bad faction name and I'm like, it's not gonna work, and then like the Judgment Day comes up and it worked, right? So
exactly.
It's I don't want to shit on it like that, but just like sometimes I'm not 100% bought in. But I like your theory, especially with the Stacks, and I think even with Phil's super chat, challenging them to a parking lot, it's a ploy. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. The surface, it makes sense.
And then what? They kill off Tony D'Angelo. We don't see him for a while, and then oh wow, he's on the main roster by himself.
Maybe, who knows? I think he would have to do a feud with Stacks first.
But if they killed him off.
Well, okay. I don't think we're actually going to kill him off.
I don't know, man. Tony D'Angelo's kidnapped people, stuffed them in the back of the car.
This is true.
Just food for thought. Shout out to Phil for the super chat. Toledo Channel dropping another super chat for 100 rupees. He says, what's your take on botches in wrestling? When somebody botches, IWC starts running over him. Taker versus Shawn has 2 botches, but it adds more to the story. Yesterday, we saw the Izzy Dame botch. I covered this on TikTok. So, again, follow me at Ango PW.
Let's get TikTok stuff.
Yeah, I gotta get that flex in. Here's the thing, man. Billy, I'll let you respond. I just quickly want to say, when it comes to botches in wrestling, they're definitely bound to happen. They're going to happen. Sure. You can't avoid them. They happen in every single company. It's normal. People are not perfect. If you are somebody who believes that human beings are perfect, you're a fucking liar. Because there's just no such thing as a perfect human being. We are all flawed. That's the way we were created. Especially when you're doing wrestling moves in a match or having promos or something. Shit happens because that's human nature. You like that one? But my point that I'm making here is, like, for example, the one with Izzy Dame last night, it kind of aggravated me just slightly because that's a botch that, like, it's live television. You really screwed up. The ref and you and everybody just keeps going like nothing happened, but it directly impacted the outcome of the match.
For sure.
So my take is that I understand. It doesn't make me mad. I just hate when it's like, you botch a move, no big deal. You botch a springboard move, no big deal. You botch your finisher a little bit, no big deal. But if you botch the finish, that's like that's the finish line, you know? It's like that's where I kind of just like, shit, you know?
Yeah, so just to kind of piggyback you off for a second, like when something's like cringeworthy, and it's more like secondhand embarrassment. You just kind of watch the TV and you're like,
Yep.
You didn't mean to do that.
Yep.
That's what it felt like for me. My take is, yes, these things happen. She is a human being at the end of the day, and she's not perfect.
Yeah.
But again, it's just where the spot was. It's where it was taking place. It was the end of the match, and you just look and you're like, ugh, oh god,
Yeah.
Didn't mean for that to take place. But again, it happened. It is what it is. We'll move on from it after today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Easy to move on, by the way, of course. But
yeah, very easy.
just like in the moment, like, damn it. Somebody said in the chat she's not used to winning because she's always losing, which is fair.
Jesus.
I will say, though, I do want to point this out. I love the calling. I love Sean Spears and his group, and I love everything about that. So I did want to throw that out there.
That group is amazing.
I love them. That's a group that I would love to see on the main roster.
Yes, sir. I did get a super chat over on my channel, so whenever you're...
Yeah, we have one more from Tolino Channel, and we'll switch gears.
Yeah.
Tolino Channel dropped another 100 rupees. He says, if Stax becomes the leader of Dark State, Ricky Saints is the perfect opponent after Stand and Deliver, using a faction to your advantage to win gold and retain for long. And I do actually want to say this would be a great take, in my opinion, because Ricky doesn't need to be North American champion, and Ricky could also get called up to the main event, world title picture, or he could get called up to the main roster. You don't have to keep the belt on him that long, and if you want to justify Saints losing, you could use Stax with the help of the guys. So I would be okay with that, honestly.
I would be okay with that too. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
And that's why I do like factions. I think utilizing factions is such an easy way to justify people winning and losing.
Absolutely.
Your faction could accidentally screw you over and you lose, or the faction could help you and distract the ref and you win. And it's like such an easy go-to thing. I'm with it.
Me too.
Like I said, I'm not gonna shit on your idea of Stax being the leader. If it were to happen, it would be a nice little swerve. It would be a nice moment. I think it's a great take. I don't see it. I don't think WWE will do it. But if they did do it, I think you're a genius. And I think it's definitely going to be fun to watch them at the very least completely change up on us. Because that's a kind of surprise that like it would be very unique. It would be a very unique twist to a story. So that's why I'm not opposed to it. Do I think Stax is the guy? No, but that will be the time for him to show us. And obviously our opinions will be different in a couple months depending on when everything gets revealed.
Revealed. Yeah. Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Shout out to Tolino Channel for the super chat. Billy, go ahead and read the super chat on your channel.
So I got a $1.99 from our good friend Darth Bane. He said, how about Hikuleo as the leader of Dark State? So I'll get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I love the idea of Hikuleo as the leader of Dark State. I made a video today. There was a huge update on Hikuleo. You guys should watch the video. But basically, he is expected on NXT television soon. In that video, I break down when. I'm not going to lie. I don't think it will happen. But streets are saying that Hikuleo is really killing in the Performance Center, and he is very well liked. The streets are saying that WWE is very high on him, and this is a better version of Hikuleo than we've ever seen before. So if that is true, shit, I'm down for it.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you flat out. I mean, I don't think it will happen, but I do feel like Hikuleo is kind of going to get kind of the same treatment that maybe somebody like Solo Sikoa. I know the family comparisons, but I definitely think they're going to take that kind of same route with Hikuleo, what they did with Solo Sikoa originally in NXT. I think you're going to kind of see that same path for Hikuleo.
Yes.
That's my thoughts on that.
They're going to have, I mean, really, I don't want to do our stand and deliver predictions, but
yeah, how are we going to do predictions?
We'll do them. We'll figure it out. We go stream 5 days a week, and I'm not really between predicting WWE events or talking about AEW. You know where I would stand. So, yeah,
I'm hip.
I think everybody knows. So, I will say Hikuleo, one theory that I have brought to everybody's attention in the past on this channel, and I've never elaborated on it, and I won't elaborate on it until it's time, but Hikuleo and Obafemi.
Yeah, that'll be fire.
I think that's the way to do it, and it would be perfect, to be honest. And I also had the idea of I like the idea of Hikuleo being the muscle for Ricky Saints. So
okay.
So there's some ideas I have, but I don't want to talk about it just yet. But those were two of them. So definitely throwing that out there though. Shout out to Darth Bane for super chatting Billy. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, Darth Bane. I appreciate you.
I want to bring up a topic, Billy. We have about 10 minutes left on the stream, roughly. We might go a little bit over, but I want to throw a conversation. It's been on my mind.
Okay.
I don't know what it is about WWE and their utilization of Trick Williams. He's crashing out. He's kind of heelish. He's kind of babyface-ish. He's kind of like in the middle. He's a tweener. I'm starting to believe that WWE made a massive mistake by going this route with Trick Williams, and the reason for that is because we saw how big the whoop that Trick thing became for Trick. We saw that Trick Williams, was basically another Jey Uso. He had the whole crowd rocking. Everybody loved him. And I see him in this feud with Javon Evans and Obafemi, and I like what he's doing, but I just don't think he's being utilized the way he should have been. I feel like he could have been WWE's next big major babyface, and I feel like maybe they have dropped the ball on that. And there's always a chance for them to go back, but I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
So there's a thing of letting things go on a little too long. And Trick Williams has been kind of running through NXT a bunch for just what feels like a little too long. You know what I mean? So they try to pivot something that was already working, and it just, at the end of the day, didn't make any sense for him to make this kind of pivot, especially because, kind of like you said earlier, it almost made sense that either Trick or Javon be the leader of Dark State. So if that were the case, that would be a different story, but they've now showed us that neither two of those gentlemen are going to be the leader of Dark State. So what did you do it for, and what was the case? Oh, did you just try to make him a more serious case or a more serious character because of everything that he did with Eddie Thorpe? Well, you didn't need to do that with Eddie Thorpe. You didn't have to give him these heelish tendencies for Eddie Thorpe. You didn't have to. You could make him serious, right? And you give him that serious moment, but you didn't have to start trickling in heel tendencies or whatever. So I don't know. And maybe they want him to go heel for, maybe a feud with Javon Evans, after Stand and Deliver. That way Javon Evans can stay the babyface. But again, everything with Whoop That Trick was on fire, and that is such a dumb idea to do.
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts on it.
I have no problem saying that WWE has fumbled Trick Williams. And it's so strange for me to say that because he is such an incredible talent. But, when we talk about an easy layup, you just look at the reaction that this guy used to get as a massive babyface in NXT. And to see that he will likely have a great triple threat match at Stand and Deliver, I'm not sold on his character. And it's hard for me to be sold on his character because I do see him improving so much through this character. But like I said, man, you got to compare it to Jey Uso doing the yeet in the crowd. Like, Trick Williams has everybody rocking with him. And I find it so strange that WWE, and I find it so strange that WWE, it was such a easy layup, and they decided, you know what, man? We're going to have him go for a jump ball and run in the opposite direction. And why do that? Like, you don't have to do that. Trick Williams is that good to the point where, like, let him be that big babyface star. Get him out of NXT at this point, man. What is he doing? Let him go up to the main roster, whoop that Trick. Dude, that's merchandise money. That's the crowd going crazy. You're replicating the Jey Uso success, and this guy's naturally over. To me, I hate using the word fumbled, but I feel like WWE has fumbled him in the sense of letting him go through this other path where, I don't know, it was just easy money.
So again, going back to what I said, like, not everybody is perfect, and WWE has made mistakes, and this is one of those cases where, hey, this is not working, and this is not sticking the way that it was supposed to from the beginning because you've pivoted in directions that shouldn't have been.
I don't think it's bad though. I don't think this character thing is bad. I just think the way that they've gone about this,
It's the utilization of it.
it's not the utilization. Yes, it is, but it's not. It's the way of. It's not. The booking is fine. The character development is fine. Everything that he's doing is good. It's good content. It's good stuff. But to me, it's you had an easy layup for a massive babyface guy. And the biggest criticism that Trick Williams had was he's green in the ring. Well, now he's not. Turn that guy back to a babyface and let him go out there and win the crowd over. Dude, it's just such easy money. That's my point. This stuff that he's doing is not bad. It's just what the hell
but
is
what
the
you
purpose?
had prior to was, it's funny. You know what I mean? Or like I think they had the shirt that he wore yesterday, the crash out shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm just, as a professional crash out myself, right?
Yeah.
Just because you crash out doesn't mean you necessarily have to be a bad guy. So I don't know. Again, I'm just going to kind of let it play out.
Yeah, for sure. Tolino Channel followed up with another super chat, 40 rupees. He says, will WWE will WWE pull Chad Gable versus El Grande Americano in a cinematic match? No.
Oh, fire. I'm kidding.
But if you guys want to look at a cinematic match that was done where it was the same person wrestling the same person, go no further than TNA Impact Wrestling and watch Ethan Page. Real ones remember Ethan Page's cinematic match.
With who?
Himself.
Get out of here.
Amazing. Then he went to AEW and was just sitting on the sidelines. That guy's
Go look it up.
That guy's a fucking goat. I love Ethan Page. And Impact did so well with him.
Ethan Page is great. And then he showed up on Impact, last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
But go look at that, guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Can they do it with Chad and El Grande Americano? Yeah, they could, but they're not going to do it. They're doing the story between him and Ray, so.
But my word, that would be funny.
Yeah.
For sure.
Shout out to Tolino Channel for the super chat. If anybody has any last minute super chats, get those in now before we call it a stream. We got just 2 minutes left. Overall, I enjoyed NXT. And it was nice. It was a nice episode. Very solid stuff. Stand and Deliver, I'm very excited about.
For sure.
I'm excited about what they're doing with Giulia and Stephanie. I think that's great content. I think what they're doing with Jordan Grace is great. I love the Women's North American Championship picture. I feel like they've just done a very solid job of building to this PLE. And I always enjoy Stand and Deliver, and this one is the one I'm probably the most excited for in a long time, just because everything is fluidly being built.
All flowing in together.
And, we'll see. We'll see if TNA gets involved in any more capacities.
You never know.
Yeah, we'll see. So, it should be fun.
You never know. It should be.
So, yeah, I think we got about a minute left. Let the world know where they can find you, Mr. Billy TKO.
Well, you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Billy TKO. If you want to follow me on the Bird app, Twitter, X, it's Billy D TKO. Ooh, added a D in there. On top of that, I am doing a AEW Dynamite watch along tonight, and I'm bringing a special guest along with me.
It's not me, so
I'm
not watching that shit.
I don't blame you. I don't want to watch that shit. That's why I'm bringing somebody along with me.
Damn. Yeah. Maybe I'll watch it on Max or something. I don't know. I'm not.
Or you just pull up to my stream, hang out. But it is what it is.
No, dude, I got to be part of the 35 million people watching on Max.
Oh, somebody said, oh, shit, that's right. Evolve is on.
That's right, buddy. No, I'm not even watching Evolve. I have such a massive day. So many things happening today. I probably won't even be able to make it in time for it.
No, that's cool, brother. That's cool. People, if I have to suffer, I'm bringing somebody along with me, guys.
Yeah, that's pretty smart, dude. That's good.
Yeah.
So that'd be cool. And I'll try to tune in if I could to your stream. I don't know if I'll be around, but shout out to Billy, man. Thank you again being here, and we'll be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. I'm sure I'll watch Dynamite after the fact it's aired live though, because by the time I get back. But so tomorrow should be a fun stream, and Pat McAfee has the Big Night Out show tonight.
Big who's tuning into the Big Night Out?
Apparently Pat McAfee sold more tickets than an AEW pay-per-view, so I don't know if that's true.
No shit. We had a discussion yesterday. We were either going to stream a Big Night Out or we were going to do AEW. Still up in the air.
Yeah. We'll see how
one will be streamed.
Make sure you guys follow Billy. Make sure you subscribe to Billy. Make sure you follow him everywhere and all that good stuff. I will see you guys tomorrow, and thank you all for joining.
Peace and love, baby.